The tray slipped from her fingers and shattered on the marble like a gunshot. Champagne flutes burst, gold confetti stuck to the fizzing puddle, and every head in the living room turned toward the maid with the blue scarf and the plain sneakers. Darius Johnson, the real estate king everyone in Atlanta called Mr. Steele, froze with his arms still draped around the waist of a woman in a sequined silver dress. "Mr. Johnson," the maid said, voice steady, eyes bright behind oversized glasses, "your wife asked me to deliver something." She reached into the apron pocket, pulled out a tiny black remote and pressed one button. The 100-inch TV over the stone fireplace flickered to life. Security footage rolled. Darius kissing the woman in the elevator 2 hours earlier, his hand on her neck, his wedding ring shining under the camera's cold light. Then, clip after clip, hotel hallways whispered "baby," and "I miss you," and a careless promise, "she'll never know." Gasps cut the room in jagged shapes. The board members Darius had invited to casual drinks before the ribbon cutting stared in stunned silence. The woman in silver tried to drop behind a lamp, but it was too late. The camera angle zoomed and her face filled the screen. Darius's jaw clenched. "Turn it off," he growled to the maid. "Now." The maid didn't move. She pushed the glasses up her nose and watched him, calm as a still lake before a storm. Her fingers trembled just once, barely visible, and then stilled. She lifted her left hand so he could see the ring he thought was locked in a jewelry box somewhere downtown. "Turn it off," Darius repeated, voice rising. "Do you know who I am?" The maid's smile was small and sad. "Very well," she said. "I'm the one who pressed play." Before anyone could form the words, she reached up, tugged off the scarf, pulled off the glasses, and let her hair fall free. The room gasped again, louder, heavier. Some people whispered her name like a prayer, some like a curse. Amara Johnson. Owner of the logistics company that was quietly worth just as much as Darius's towers and townhomes. The woman who had turned a single delivery van into a fleet that carried the city's secret heartbeats. Blood tests, fresh produce, rare parts for hospital machines. The woman he had married under strings of fairy lights and promised to protect. The woman now wearing a maid's uniform in her own house. "You set me up," Darius said, eyes burning. "You think this proves anything?" Amara breathed in. She had planned this scene, drawn it on paper, timed every beat. But hearing him say it, "You think this proves anything?" still cut deeper than she expected. He moved toward her, and two board members stepped between them without thinking. The woman in silver slipped toward the hallway. "I think," Amara said, voice steady, "it proves enough to unlock what comes next." Before she could say more, the front door swung open. A rush of humid night air pushed in the smell of rain, cut grass, and blue lights. Sirens wailed, climbing the hill like wolves. Darius spun. "You called the police?" Amara shook her head. "Security," she said. "And a lawyer." Footsteps thundered down the entryway. But when the first figure stepped into the light, the room didn't see a uniform. It saw a familiar face with a hard set to the mouth and a small scar over the eyebrow. Devon, Amara's cousin, stood firm beside a second woman carrying a leather folder. "Mrs. Johnson," the woman said, eyes never leaving Darius, as requested. Amara took the folder, pressed the remote again, and the screen shifted from kisses to spreadsheets. Dates and account numbers, late-night transfers from company budgets that didn't exist 3 months ago. "Stop," Darius snapped. "This is illegal." "What you did is illegal," Amara replied softly. "But that's not what tonight is about." He blinked, thrown off. "No?" he asked. "It's about truth," she said. "And about the people we invite into our home." The woman in silver was almost at the hallway door when Amara turned and spoke, not loud, but with the weight of a bell. "Miss Tiana Rivers," she said. The name froze Tiana's feet to the floor. She turned slowly, chin lifted like she was still on a runway. "You can go," Amara said. "The show isn't for you." Tiana looked at Darius for help. He looked back at her and saw, maybe for the first time, that she was scared. He had promised her he would handle everything. Their plan had glittered like a new skyline. He'd shift profits through shell companies, she'd smooth reputations in rooms Amara never entered, and when the dust settled, he would not be just a man with buildings. He would be a legend. Now the legend was cracked, and the woman who cracked it was barefoot in white sneakers and a maid's apron. "You always did love an entrance," Darius said to Amara, trying to laugh. "Is this your new brand? Housekeeping for billionaires." Amara could have thrown the folder at him. She could have shouted about the lies, the months of vanishing messages, the perfume that lived in the car even after the windows were rolled down. She could have told the room that she had scrubbed her own floors for 2 weeks straight, not to clean them but to listen, to the house, to the staff, to the quiet places where truth gathers like dust. Instead, she let the silence stretch until it pulled everyone to the edge of it. "No," she said. "This is not a brand. This is a promise being paid." He stared at her hand on the folder. His eyes dipped to the name printed in gold on the leather. Amara Johnson. The sirens outside faded into the steady blink of parked cars. The board members whispered to each other, and one of them, an older woman with calm eyes, looked at Amara and gave the smallest nod, the kind you offer a person who has chosen the fire and walked through it. Amara pressed the remote again. The TV went black. The room felt suddenly larger, as if the walls had stepped back to give the scene space. And then she said the words none of them expected. "Everyone, please excuse us." People didn't move right away. But something in her voice, the evenness of it, the way she stood, made them drift toward the door in currents, polite, confused, curious. Devon guided them, quiet and firm. Tiana hesitated, then decided the hallway was still her best friend and slipped through it like smoke. The front door closed and the echoes of other people's shoes faded. Darius and Amara were alone in the living room, the confetti still clinging to the spill, the city sighing outside. He laughed first, a short, ugly sound. "So this is your plan? Embarrass me, then ask for space." Amara didn't answer the question. She set the folder on the coffee table and, with fingers that shook for only a second, untied the apron and let it fall beside the broken glass. "I learned something," she said. "About you. But I also learned something about me." "You learned you're good at cleaning?" he snapped. "I learned I can do hard things," she replied. "Even when it means losing what I thought I couldn't live without." He stared at her, and for a moment, there was the boy she met on a crowded Lagos flight years ago, the one who had loaned his charger and told a joke corny enough to make the flight attendant smile. Back then they had been two hustlers with big plans. He for buildings and bright lobbies, she for trucks and routes and women hired at fair wages with health insurance. They had crossed oceans together. They had fixed plates for family cookouts in Atlanta and taken long Christmas trips to Enugu, where aunties pinched cheeks and uncles told the same stories twice. They had built a life on strong shoulders. And somewhere along the way, the floors they walked on had become mirrors, reflecting choices neither of them wanted to look at. "Say what you came to say," he muttered. "Let's get this over with." Amara opened the folder, pulled out a single page and set it in front of him. It was not a divorce paper, not a lawsuit, not the thing he had braced for. It was a list of names. 15 of them. Housekeepers. Drivers. A gardener. The night nanny who quit after 3 weeks. Next to each name were notes and dates, and small circles inked in red. "What is this?" he asked. "The people who work here," she said. "The people who saw things, heard things and were paid to keep quiet." "You're making me into a monster," he said. "I don't have to," she answered. "You did that part yourself." He looked down the list again and his eyes snagged on one name, Lydia Okafor, and next to it, a red circle with a date. His mouth opened, then closed. He glanced up and his voice when it came out was softer, almost careful. "You talked to Lydia?" Amara nodded. "She told me about a phone call. About a midnight visitor. About what she almost lost because of you." Darius's hands curled at his sides. For a second the swagger slid, and a hint of fear showed under it like cracked plaster beneath paint. "This is bigger than you think," he whispered. "I know," she said. He took one step forward. "You don't," he insisted. "You think this is about cheating. You think it's about me and Tiana. But it's not. It's about money that isn't in our house anymore. It's about people who don't knock when they come in. If you keep pushing, you'll—" The living room lights went out. Complete darkness swallowed the house. The hum of the fridge died. The blinking router lights by the bookshelf went dead. From somewhere deep in the hallway, a door clicked open. Darius's voice was a shadow near her shoulder. "Amara," he said, the anger washed out, the fear back and bigger. "Who did you tell you were coming back tonight?" Before she could answer, a thin line of light slid across the floor from the hallway and stopped at the edge of the broken glass. A boot stepped into it, black, quiet, certain, followed by another. A figure paused, listening. "Mrs. Johnson?" A low voice called, not quite friendly, not quite cruel. "We need to talk." Amara's fingers found the edge of the coffee table. Her pulse drummed in her ears. The mission had been to catch her cheating husband and make him face what he'd done. She had planned for cameras, lawyers, board members, and tears. She had not planned for the lights to die and strangers to walk into her living room in the dark. "Who are you?" she asked, forcing her voice to hold steady. The figure took another step, and the light traced the outline of a badge clipped to a belt. No logo she recognized, Only a number and a name she couldn't read. The voice answered, measured and cold. "The people you woke up," he said. "Open the folder, Mrs. Johnson." Page 3. Amara reached for the leather in the dark, her palm damp, her mind racing, and then a phone buzzed on the coffee table, face lighting up with a single word that made her breath catch. "Run." For a heartbeat, the tiny blue glow from the phone lit Amara's face, the single word stamped across the screen like a warning label. "Run." The name above it, Devon, flashed once before the display dimmed and vanished. "Don't move," the man in the hallway said. Darius's breath touched her shoulder, too close. "Amara," he whispered, "listen." A second figure slid into view, the kind of shadow that had practiced being a shadow. Even without electricity, the house seemed to recognize new gravity, the way the floorboards gave the softest complaint, the way the air shifted. Somewhere outside, a generator from a neighbor's mansion coughed itself awake and settled into a steady purr. In here, there was only quiet and the slick smell of spilled champagne drying on stone. Page 3, the first man repeated. "Now." Amara's fingers found the folder. She opened it by feel, counting the thick paper with her thumb. 1, 2, 3. The sheet rasped soft and dry. She couldn't see the print in the dark, but she knew what lived on that page. A rough map she'd sketched from a week of pretending to dust baseboards while listening to vents. A small network of accounts. A name, Rivers Foundation LLC. A number coded in the margin that pointed to a warehouse unit on the south side of Atlanta where pallets were stacked 3 deep with donations that never crossed the charity's door. "Read it," the man said. "I can't," she answered. "Lights are out." He paused. Then, the click of a small flashlight, the beam a knife through the dark. It landed on her hands and the paper, bleaching her skin bone white. The beam didn't touch Darius's face, but she felt him flinch. The man's voice softened, not kind, but patient. "Read it, Mrs. Johnson." She cleared her throat. "Rivers Foundation LLC," she began, eyes skating over the type she had typed herself. "Shell formed last November. Linked to 5 subcontractors on the Horizon Tower project. Transfers from Johnson Urban Holdings to Rivers, then to independent vendors. No invoices filed with City Permit Office." Her voice steadied as she read. One vendor cross-referenced to a warehouse on Red Oaks Boulevard. Another to an entity registered in Lagos, Freetide Exports, no clear owners. The flashlight sliced up to Darius. His outline sharpened, chin set, shoulders squared like he could wrestle the light into going somewhere else. "Turn that off," he said. "You don't come into my house." "Mr. Johnson," the man cut in, "you've been very busy." "Who are you?" Amara insisted. "Friends of people who lost money," he replied. "Friends of people who want it back before sunrise." "Then call yourselves what you are," Darius snapped. "Collectors." The second figure's laugh was a dry scrape. "We're here to keep this quiet. That makes us generous." Amara's lungs ached from small breaths. She put the paper down and lifted her chin. "If you're looking for sympathy, you took a wrong turn." The man moved his light to the broken glass on the floor, a slow sweep that made confetti sparkle like tiny alarms. "Mrs. Johnson," he said, "you think tonight is about a man with 2 phones and a dress he can't forget. It's bigger. Your husband's shortcuts dug tunnels under other people's houses. Those tunnels lead to rooms that don't like surprises. Your security cameras woke them up. You woke them up." The words were measured, the way a surgeon speaks before the first incision. Darius's voice dropped. "Amara, give them the folder. Let them walk." She turned to him. In the dim, he was the man she had loved and the man she had just exposed, both true at once. "If I hand this over," she said, "we bury the truth. If you don't," he countered, "we could bury more than that." The second man set something on the coffee table with a soft clack. Amara recognized the shape by sound, a portable power bank and a small router. He plugged, pressed, and a thin line of LEDs blinked green. The house didn't sigh back to life. The big systems were still dead, but a narrow strip of emergency bulbs along the baseboards glowed, as if the house had decided to hum under its breath. The first man lowered the flashlight and let the new glow find his boots, his belt, the smooth blank of a badge with no seal. He watched Amara, eyes steady. "We're not here to hurt you," he said. "We're here to make sure the only thing that leaves this room is that folder." "And what if the folder already left?" Amara asked. He didn't blink. "It didn't," he said, not guessing but knowing. "You're too careful. That's why we're having this conversation in your living room and not somewhere with concrete floors and an echo." The line landed like a cold hand on the back of her neck. He was right, she hadn't sent everything. She had baited the hook and kept the catch close. Only Devon had seen the full drive, and Devon knew which doors to lock when strangers knocked. The phone lit again. Another message from Devon. Basement. Don't argue. The first man heard the buzz. His mouth bent into the ghost of a smile. Cousin says hello? She didn't answer. Instead, she lifted the folder with both hands as if it were a heavy tray, and set it carefully on the edge of the table nearest the men. Take it, she said. Take what you think is your piece. Darius made a strangled sound. Amara? She turned her head slightly, just enough to catch him in the glow. You will fix what you broke, she said, low but sharp. Not for me. For the names on that page. The first man slid the folder toward himself but didn't open it yet. Smart, he murmured. You kept copies. I'd be disappointed if you hadn't. He tapped the leather with 2 fingers. This buys time. Time for your husband to move money back where it belongs. Time for us to tell the right people that the fire is cooling. And if he doesn't? Amara asked. The second man's shadow thickened. Then someone else will come, he said. Someone who doesn't bring a router. A curdled silence followed. Outside, thunder rolled far off like a promise running late. Amara pictured the warehouse on Red Oaks. The stale air, the plastic wrap crinkling on boxes labeled with the names of schools that never got their new computers. She pictured Lydia's hands, chapped from bleach, fluttering as she described the man who'd come late with a packet for Darius when the family was out of town. She pictured Tiana's glossy smile in the elevator security footage and the way it had slid when the TV lit up. Fine, Darius said, voice flat. You have your folder. What now? Now, the first man replied. You make 2 phone calls. One to the bank manager you take to golf. One to a contractor named Idris who doesn't sleep before dawn. Money moves. Materials move. We watch. If by 6 a.m. nothing has started moving, we wake up the rooms with concrete floors. He let the words settle. Darius swallowed. Amara saw the calculation in his eyes, the quick arithmetic of a man who had spent years turning squares of land into stacks of glass. He nodded once, a tight dip of the chin. I'll call. The first man slid his gaze back to Amara. And you, Mrs. Johnson. You stop playing Maid. Her spine straightened. The uniform served its purpose. It served one, he said. You still have another. What purpose is that? She asked. To keep your name clean enough to walk into rooms your husband can't, he answered. If you want the warehouse emptied by morning and those shell companies unwound without a headline, you'll need the kind of pressure that comes with spotless hands. Her laugh was a thin, surprised sound. Do you practice speeches? Only when the audience is smart, he said. The second man gathered the router wire, the light sliding across the table, catching the pattern in the marble like a riverbed. The first man tucked the folder under his arm. We'll be outside, he said. You have 3 hours. Do not leave the property. He turned, and the 2 shadows melted back to the hallway with the soft efficiency of people who treat doors as suggestions. The emergency lights hummed. Somewhere deep in the walls, a relay clicked, and the air conditioning coughed a little cold into the room as if the house was trying to decide whose side it was on. Darius exhaled shakily. This is what I meant, he said, voice raw. It's not about Tiana. I know, Amara replied, and there was no triumph in it. He took his phone out, thumb poised over a contact, then paused. You set this in motion, he said. You going to finish it with me? She wanted to say no. She wanted to say you broke it, you fix it. But the names on the page wouldn't care which Johnson signed the transfer orders. She thought of the drivers on her payroll who carved their days around daycare pickups and second jobs. She thought of the kids who were supposed to open new laptops this fall and learn the smell of fresh boxes and possibility. We finish it, she said. He nodded once and stepped away to make the call, voice shifting into that low, persuasive tone that had sold a dozen city councils their futures. While he spoke, Amara slipped her bare feet out of the damp sneakers and moved toward the wall panel near the bookshelf. She pressed a hidden spring and slid the panel back. Behind it, the house's nerve center blinked dumbly. She reached past the dead smart hub and pulled out a second, smaller box she'd installed herself, something that ran on a separate line Devon had threaded through the hedges when no one was looking. She flipped a switch. A soft chime traveled the baseboards. Somewhere below in the basement, a safe unlocked. Devon's last message burned in her mind. Basement. Don't argue. She took 2 steps toward the staircase, then stopped. Darius, she said quietly. He paused mid-sentence and looked up. If Idris answers, she said, tell him to bring 3 trucks, not 2. And tell him we're not moving anything to your sites. We're moving it to the schools. He stared at her, confusion widening into something else. Reluctant respect, old memory, fear. He nodded, then spoke into the phone, changing the script. Amara turned toward the stairs, the emergency lights painting a pale path. The house breathed around her, a creature deciding to trust her again. On the first step down into the cool, half-finished basement, her phone buzzed one more time. A new message from an unknown number strobed on the screen. "You're late." She froze, thumb hovering over reply as a soft metal sound, like a safe door closing, echoed from below. Then a whisper rose from the dark, a voice she recognized and didn't expect to hear in her house again. "Amara," it said. "Don't come down here alone." Amara's heart stuttered. The voice was faint but distinct, a mix of worry and warning that crawled down her spine. For a split second she thought she imagined it, but then came another whisper, urgent this time. "Amara, stop. Please." Her fingers tightened around the banister. That voice, she knew it. It wasn't Devon's. It wasn't Darius's. It was softer, female. "Lydia?" she whispered into the dim light. No reply, only the slow hum of the backup power running through the walls. She swallowed hard, her throat dry as dust, and descended another step. The basement door hung half open, revealing a faint strip of light from below, like someone had turned on a phone flashlight and set it down on the floor. "Lydia?" Amara called again. "Is that you?" Pause. Then a muffled sob. That was all she needed to hear. She ran down the remaining steps barefoot, the air turning cooler with each stride until she stepped onto the concrete floor and froze. In the corner of the basement, half lit by a fallen lamp, Lydia Okafor, her former housekeeper, sat bound to a chair. Her lips trembled, her face bruised and streaked with tears. "Madam Amara, they said they'd kill me if I called you," Lydia cried. Amara rushed forward, fumbling at the knots holding Lydia's wrists. "Who did this? Who came here?" "The same men upstairs," Lydia whispered. "But one more came before them. He said he worked for your husband. He said you shouldn't look into the company files, that you'd end up like the others." Amara froze mid-movement. "The others?" Lydia nodded weakly. "Two people, madam. The accountant and the driver. They tried to speak up. They disappeared last week." The words thudded through the room like stones. Amara's chest tightened. Everything she thought was just betrayal and financial deceit was turning darker, deadly. She pulled the last rope free, helped Lydia up, and guided her to a stool. "Did he say his name?" Lydia shook her head. "He had a scar. Across his mouth. Like it was stitched once." Amara's mind went blank. A scar across the mouth. The memory clicked like a lock turning. One of Darius's old friends? A fixer who used to handle shady negotiations years ago in Lagos. They called him Crane because he could lift any problem out of sight. Amara glanced toward the safe on the far wall. The heavy door now stood slightly ajar. The combination lock still spun lazily as if someone had just opened it. "Did they take anything?" she asked, rushing forward. Lydia's gaze dropped. "They opened it, but they didn't take. They put something inside." Amara stopped cold. She gripped the handle and slowly pulled the safe open. Inside lay a sleek black flash drive resting on top of the documents she'd hidden. Property titles, transfer proofs, recordings. There was a note taped on top of the drive. "You wanted the truth. Don't cry when you see it." Her pulse spiked. Darius's voice echoed from upstairs, muffled, anxious. "Amara, what's going on down there?" She quickly pocketed the flash drive, slammed the safe shut, and turned to Lydia. "Stay behind me," she ordered. "We're leaving this house." But as she reached the stairs, Lydia grabbed her arm, trembling. "Madam, you can't leave now. They're still outside. I heard them talking. They said they're waiting for a signal." "What signal?" "I don't know," Lydia sobbed. "But one of them said, if she walks out with it, light the place." Amara's heart skipped. She scanned the ceiling, the emergency lights flickered faintly. In their pale glow, she noticed something new, a tiny red dot blinking near the vent. "A camera." She stepped back. "They're watching us." "Madam," Lydia whispered, terrified, "they said it's not just about money. They said you have something they want, something your husband doesn't even know you found." Before Amara could reply, her phone vibrated again, another message from Devon. "Don't go upstairs. There's a bomb trigger hidden in the router. They're bluffing, but it's rigged. I'm 5 minutes away." She read it twice, then looked up at the faint hum coming from the router the strangers had installed earlier. Her skin turned cold. Lydia gripped her hand. "Madam, please. What do we do?" Amara forced herself to breathe. "We wait. And we make it look like we ran." She scanned the basement, spotting an old laundry chute in the corner, one that led outside behind the garden hedge. "Through there," she said quickly. "Crawl out, stay low, and run toward the old generator house." "I can't leave you," Lydia cried. "You must," Amara insisted, gripping her shoulders. "Devon's coming. Tell him where I am. Go now." Lydia nodded shakily and crawled toward the chute. As soon as she disappeared into the darkness, Amara turned back to the safe, pulled out her phone, and slotted the flash drive into a small adapter. A series of encrypted files appeared, labeled by date, all from Darius's company. She opened the first one. The screen filled with video thumbnails, dozens of them. Meetings, private dinners, signed agreements, and at the center of it all, one face she hadn't expected to see, Tiana Rivers. She tapped play. The recording opened on a luxurious office, Darius's voice laughing in the background. Tiana leaned against his desk, sliding a file toward a man whose face the camera barely caught. Then the man turned. It was the same scar-lipped enforcer Lydia had described. Tiana's voice was smooth, confident. "Don't worry about the Foundation records. Once Amara takes the bait, we'll make her the fall guy. We'll leak the charity fraud under her company's name." Amara's breath caught. Her husband hadn't just betrayed her, they were setting her up. The video ended with Darius's unmistakable laugh and Tiana's hand brushing his cheek. Her mind spun. Every move she had made, disguising herself, collecting evidence, confronting him, had played right into their hands. She wasn't exposing them. She was walking straight into a trap they had built months ago. A floorboard creaked upstairs. Darius's voice echoed again, closer now. "Amara, come up here." She didn't answer. She quietly ejected the drive and slipped it into her apron pocket. Then she crouched near the stairs and whispered into her phone mic, recording a voice memo. "If anything happens to me, this is Amara Johnson. There's proof of fraud and conspiracy involving Darius Johnson, Tiana Rivers, and an unknown man with a scar on his mouth. Files are on this drive. Send this to Devon." She hit send just as heavy footsteps started down the stairs. "Amara," Darius called, tone sharp, "what are you doing?" She stood still, heart racing. When he reached the bottom step, his eyes widened. "Where's Lydia?" "She's gone," Amara said flatly. "Gone?" His voice cracked. "You shouldn't have done that. You just made it worse." "Worse than what?" she snapped. "Worse than the trap you set for me?" Darius froze. "What are you talking about?" "Don't lie to me," she hissed, pulling the flash drive from her pocket. "I saw the videos. You and Tiana." Before she could finish, a small red light on the ceiling blinked twice, faster now. Darius's eyes followed it and his face went pale. "Amara," he said quietly, "we have to leave. Now." She frowned. "Why?" "Because that's the signal." The floor vibrated, once, twice. Then a dull boom sounded from somewhere near the front of the house. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lights flickered. "They rigged it," Darius shouted. "They're wiping everything." He grabbed her hand and they bolted up the stairs as smoke rolled through the hall. The air thickened with heat and panic. Behind them, the basement door blew inward and firelight flashed against the walls. Outside, faint sirens started again. Only this time they weren't just police. They burst into the living room. Flames licked the walls near the router, spreading fast. Darius coughed. "Where's the drive?" "Safe," Amara gasped. He pulled her toward the side exit, but before they could reach it, a silhouette appeared in the doorway, the scar-lipped man, Crane himself, holding a gun low at his side. He smiled, the old wound tugging his mouth crooked. "You should have just stayed a maid, Mrs. Johnson," he said. The flames popped and crackled between them, throwing wild shadows across the marble. Amara tightened her grip on the flash drive, heart pounding. And then, from outside, a single car engine roared to life, headlights cutting through the smoke. Devon's SUV. Crane cocked the gun. Too late. But Amara took one step forward anyway, eyes blazing. Not yet. The sound of tires screeching and glass shattering filled the air as Devon's vehicle smashed through the side gate, straight toward the house. The explosion of noise and fire swallowed everything. Then silence. "He gave you credit for. Too bad that won't save you." Crane turned his weapon toward her now. "You think you can cut me out?" "I already did," she said coolly and fired. The shot echoed like the end of a sentence. Crane dropped instantly, his gun clattering to the floor. Smoke coiled around his body as he lay motionless. Devon cursed under his breath. Darius stared, stunned, as Tiana turned her gun toward Amara next. "Now, sweetheart," she said, voice smooth as glass. Be a good wife and hand me that drive. Amara gripped it tighter. If I give it to you, you'll still kill us. Tiana shrugged. Probably. But I'll make it painless. Before she could squeeze the trigger, Devon kicked a fallen metal lamp across the floor. It sparked violently against a live wire, and a burst of flame erupted between them. Tiana stumbled back, blinded for a split second. Amara seized the moment. She grabbed Darius's hand and sprinted toward the side hallway. Devon followed close behind, firing a warning shot as Tiana recovered and ducked behind a pillar. Go. Go. Devon shouted. They ran through the smoke-filled hallway, stumbling into the garage. The sprinklers finally activated overhead, drenching everything in cold mist. Amara coughed, clutching the flash drive to her chest. Devon threw open the side door, revealing the wet driveway outside. Get in the car now. But before Amara could move, Darius stopped her. Wait. We can't leave the files. The original documents, they're in my office safe upstairs. Amara stared at him in disbelief. You want to go back in there? If Tiana gets them first, she can destroy everything, he yelled. The evidence against her, against me, it's all in that safe. Devon grabbed his shoulder. You're insane. That house is about to collapse. But Darius had already turned, running back toward the burning hallway. Darius. Amara screamed, starting after him, but Devon caught her arm. Amara, no. I can't let him die in there, she cried. Devon shook his head. If you go back, none of us walk out. Then another explosion ripped through the east wing, the ceiling above the staircase caving in with a roar. Flames and smoke surged outward like an angry beast. Darius. Amara shouted again, but no answer came. Devon dragged her toward the car. We have to move. She stumbled into the passenger seat, clutching the flash drive. Through the broken window she saw Tiana stumbling out of the house, hair wild, gun still in hand, but behind her, the roof gave way completely. The fire consumed everything. Devon floored the accelerator as firefighters and sirens swarmed the street. Amara looked back through the rear window, her heart heavy with shock and disbelief. Her mansion, her life, was a towering blaze, swallowing years of love, lies, and memories. Tiana disappeared into the chaos. Darius was nowhere to be seen. Devon's voice broke the silence. Amara, that drive, what's on it can bury them all. But it can also bury you. She turned to him slowly, eyes glistening. Then we make sure it tells the truth before anyone else twists it. He nodded grimly. Where do we go? Amara glanced at the flash drive, its tiny silver edge catching the glow of the flames behind them. To the only person I trust to expose this, she said softly. An old friend in the press. Devon frowned. The journalist? Yes, Amara said, staring out the window as the mansion collapsed in a rain of sparks. It's time the world knows who really runs the Rivers Foundation. The SUV sped down the wet road, leaving behind fire and betrayal. But as they disappeared into the night, a single phone, half-burned and buried under debris, buzzed inside the ruins of the Johnson mansion. Its cracked screen lit up one last time. Incoming call, Tiana Rivers. And somewhere, deep in the smoke, a faint cough answered. Tell us your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're still following this intense story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and share it so others can experience this unfolding mystery. The road stretched long and dark, the kind of darkness that swallows headlights and secrets whole. The rain had started again, slow, heavy drops that hit the windshield like quiet warnings. Amara sat in the front seat, eyes fixed ahead but seeing nothing. Her mind replayed the fire, the screams, the way Darius vanished into the smoke. Devon drove in silence, hands gripping the wheel too tightly. The rhythmic squeak of the wipers was the only sound between them. Finally he spoke. You think he's dead? Amara swallowed hard. If he's not, then Tiana will finish the job. Devon gave a short, humorless laugh. That woman walked through fire like she was born in it. Amara didn't answer. Her fingers fidgeted with the flash drive in her lap, the tiny piece of metal that now carried everything. The evidence, the betrayals, and the danger that had turned her world into ash. They turned off the main highway, cutting through the old industrial district of Atlanta, where the roads were cracked and the streetlights flickered like dying stars. Devon stopped near an abandoned printing warehouse. This is where you want to meet her? He asked, eyeing the dark building ahead. She doesn't trust public places, Amara said. Not since she published that corruption expose last year. She's careful. He hesitated. You sure she won't sell you out? She saved me once, Amara replied softly. She'll do it again. Devon nodded and killed the engine. The rain thudded against the car roof as Amara stepped out, clutching her bag tight. She took a deep breath and walked toward the warehouse door. It opened before she could knock. "Amara," a woman's voice said, calm but surprised. "You look like you walked out of a war." "Maybe I did," Amara murmured. The woman stepped into the light, tall, slim, with dark brown skin and a braided ponytail streaked with gold. Her eyes were sharp, calculating. "Nia Hudson," Amara said with a faint smile. "Still burning governments for breakfast?" "Only the corrupt ones," Nia replied. "And you?" Amara held up the flash drive. "I'm ready to burn an empire." Nia's eyebrows lifted. "Let's get inside then." They entered the warehouse. The air smelled of ink and old paper, relics of its former life. In the center stood a makeshift workstation. Laptops, external hard drives, and a dim lamp powered by a portable generator. Amara set the flash drive on the table. Nia plugged it in without another word. The screen filled with folders, codes, and timestamps. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. "Good Lord," Nia whispered. "You weren't exaggerating." "What do you see?" Devin asked, standing guard near the window. "Everything," Nia said. "Offshore accounts, shell charities, bribes disguised as hospital donations. This connects politicians, CEOs, even a few foundations overseas." She looked up. "And your husband was in the middle of it all." Amara stared at the screen. "He wasn't just cheating with Tiana. He was laundering money for her network." "Exactly," Nia said grimly. "But here's the twist. These files weren't just copied from Darius's server. They were mirrored from your company's system, Amara. Someone's been routing every transaction through your name." Amara's stomach dropped. "They framed me completely. By tomorrow morning," Nia continued, "the news will say you ran the Rivers Foundation scam. Tiana and her people will make sure of it." Devin cursed. "We need to get ahead of them. Leak the files first." "Too risky," Nia said, unplugging the drive. "They'll call it fake. We need verification, timestamps, server trails, and witnesses." She looked at Amara. "That means you and I have to go to the source, your husband's office downtown. His system still holds the original signatures." Amara stiffened. "Darius's office is under lockdown. The police will be there." Nia gave a sly smile. "Exactly why no one will expect you." Before Amara could reply, Devin's phone buzzed. He checked the message and his expression turned grim. "What?" Amara asked. He handed her the phone. On the screen was a photo, grainy but unmistakable. A burned-out car near the ruins of the Johnson mansion. And in the corner of the image, a blurred figure wrapped in a blanket, sitting beside a medic van. It was Darius. Alive. "He made it out," Devin muttered. Amara's pulse quickened. Relief and dread mixed inside her like oil and water. "If he's alive. Then he knows you have the evidence," Nia finished. "And he'll come for it." Amara clenched her fists. "Then we move now. Before he finds us." They drove downtown in silence, the rain easing into a thin drizzle. The skyline loomed ahead, glittering like nothing bad ever happened beneath it. Darius's corporate tower, Johnson Urban Holdings, stood tall and perfect, its glass exterior reflecting the city's midnight pulse. Nia parked 2 blocks away. "We'll take the service entrance," she said. "Less security." They slipped into the alley behind the tower, their footsteps splashing in shallow puddles. Devin pried open the side door with a small tool. The hallway beyond was dimly lit, the hum of distant servers echoing like a heartbeat. "This way," Amara whispered, leading them toward Darius's office suite on the top floor. Every turn of the stairwell made her chest tighten. Memories of late-night meetings, his laughter, their old dreams. When they reached the top, the doors were already open. Nia frowned. "That's not right. Someone's here." Amara stepped in cautiously. The office looked untouched. Modern furniture, glass walls, and the faint scent of cologne. But a single chair had been turned toward the window. And in that chair sat Darius. Alive. Bandaged, pale but alive. He didn't turn to face them immediately. His voice was quiet, almost calm. "You came for the truth," he said. "So did I." "Darius," Amara said carefully, "you shouldn't be here." He turned slowly, revealing burns along his neck and a wrapped hand. "Neither should you." Devin tensed. "Step away from the desk." Darius smiled faintly. "Still protecting her, cousin? Even after she ruined everything?" "Ruined what?" Amara shot back. "The empire you built on lies? You think you know what's going on?" Darius said, voice rising. "You have no idea who Tiana really works for. She's not just after money, Amara, she's after names. People powerful enough to bury both of us. We already have proof, Nia said sharply. The flash drive exposes everyone. Darius chuckled darkly. No, it doesn't. That's not the full file. That's what they wanted you to find. Amara froze. What do you mean? He leaned forward, eyes burning. You think you were hunting me. But all along you were bait. They used you to smoke out the real evidence, the one I hid. Nia exchanged a glance with Devon. And where is it? Darius tilted his head. In a place only Amara would know. Amara's pulse raced. You're lying. Am I? He said softly. Do you remember our anniversary trip? The villa by Lake Oswego, the place you said felt like home. Her stomach dropped. The villa? He nodded slowly. That's where it all ends. For all of us. Before anyone could respond, a sharp metallic click echoed through the office. Nia froze. Devon's hand went instinctively to his gun. From the hallway behind them, a calm voice spoke. Don't bother, it said. We already have it surrounded. Tiana Rivers stepped into the doorway, flanked by two men in black coats. Her dress was gone, replaced by a fitted leather jacket, her hair pulled back, her expression sharp and ruthless. Everyone stays where they are, she ordered. No more fires. No more drama. Just business. Her gaze locked on Amara. Hand me the drive, darling. And maybe I'll let your husband live long enough to explain himself. The air turned electric. Amara slowly raised the flash drive, her hand trembling, but her eyes never left Tiana's. Before I give you this, Amara said quietly, answer one question. Tiana smirked. Go ahead. Why me? Tiana's grin widened, cruel and cold. Because, my dear Amara, you were the only one smart enough to take the fall and make it look real. The rain outside drummed harder against the windows. The city lights flickered. And Amara realized, this wasn't just revenge anymore. It was survival. The air in Darius's office turned heavy, thick with betrayal, smoke and rain. Every second felt stretched thin, ready to snap. Tiana stood poised in the doorway, gun gleaming under the fluorescent light, her men silent behind her like shadows trained to kill without hesitation. Amara didn't lower her hand, the flash drive glinting between her fingers. Her eyes, fierce and unblinking, locked on Tiana's. I was never meant to survive this, was I? She asked quietly. Tiana smiled. No, sweetheart. You were the perfect distraction. Everyone trusts the woman who looks like she has everything, beauty, brains, love. But power? Power hides behind faces like yours until it's ready to feed. Devon took half a step forward. Drop the weapon, Tiana. Cute, she said without turning toward him. You think this is one of those movie moments where the hero saves the day? She motioned toward the guards. You're outnumbered. And unlike you, my people don't hesitate. Darius rose from the chair slowly, his voice rough but steady. Tiana, this isn't what we agreed on. She laughed softly, coldly. Darius, the only thing we ever agreed on was using each other. You were good at building, I was better at breaking. You gave me your company and I gave you an illusion. Fair trade. Amara's jaw tightened. You used him. Just like you used me. Tiana turned back to her. No, darling. I tested you. And you failed. You had the perfect chance to stay quiet, rich, respected, adored. But instead you went digging. Now you'll drown in what you found. Nia's voice broke through the tension, low and calculated. If you pull that trigger, every file we've duplicated goes live. Tiana's smile flickered. Duplicated? Do you think we'd walk in here with only one copy? Nia continued, her tone calm but deadly serious. The drive in Amara's hand is just a key. The real upload is in progress. Devon played along instantly, pulling his phone from his pocket and pretending to check a timer. 2 minutes till it hits the network, he said. Tiana's eyes narrowed. You're bluffing. Nia shrugged. You can gamble if you want to. But I've seen your operation. You can't afford this leak. For the first time, Tiana hesitated. Her gun lowered slightly. That was all Devon needed. He lunged forward, kicking the nearest guard square in the chest. The man crashed into the wall, gun clattering to the floor. Another guard fired wildly, the shot grazing the desk. Glass shattered. Move! Devon shouted. Amara dropped behind the desk as bullets tore through the glass panels. Nia dove beside her, dragging the laptop cable free and shoving the flash drive into her jacket pocket. Darius hit the floor near the window, clutching his wounded arm as shards rained down. Get to the stairs. Devon barked, firing a shot that made Tiana duck for cover. Nia grabbed Amara's wrist. Come on. They sprinted through the side door into the stairwell. The building alarm began to wail, a shrill rising cry that made the whole place pulse red. But Tiana's voice echoed behind them. "You can't run, Amara. You were never supposed to win." Amara didn't look back. She raced down flight after flight, her lungs burning, her bare feet slapping against concrete. At the 20th floor, the emergency lights flickered. Devon caught up from behind, breathing hard. "They've locked the lower exits. We'll have to cut through the parking deck." "Keep moving," Nia shouted. By the 10th floor, gunfire echoed again from above. Tiana's men were closing in. Amara's mind raced. Every step brought her closer to collapse, but she couldn't stop now. If that flash drive reached Nia's contacts, everything would change. Then, as they rounded the next corner, a door burst open in front of them. And Darius stumbled out, coughing and bleeding, his white shirt streaked with ash and crimson. "Darius!" Amara gasped. He looked at her, the guilt in his eyes raw and real. "They'll kill you if they catch you. Give me the drive, Amara." "Are you insane?" Devon snapped. "You're the reason they want it." Darius shook his head. "No, I'm the only one who can stop them. I know the passwords, the accounts, the men funding this. Tiana can't finish her plan if I shut it down from the inside." Amara hesitated, panting. "How do I know you're not lying again?" He met her gaze, voice cracking. "Because this time I don't want to survive it." The stairwell trembled with approaching footsteps. Devon raised his weapon. "We don't have time for this." "Give it to me," Darius shouted, desperation spilling through. "If you trust me one last time, I can fix it." Amara's heart pounded in her chest. The last time she trusted him, her world burned. But something in his voice, broken, regretful, made her pause. Finally, she stepped forward and pressed the flash drive into his palm. "Don't make me regret this," she said. He gave a small nod, eyes shining. "You won't." Then he turned, limping down the hall toward the executive servers. Nia grabbed Amara's arm. "You think he's telling the truth?" Amara whispered, "I think he's finally out of lies." They bolted for the exit. Minutes later, the group reached the parking deck, smoke from gunfire and burnt wires seeping into the air. Devon hotwired a delivery van, slammed the door shut and hit the gas. The tires screeched as they sped through the exit ramp into the rainy night. Through the rear window, Amara saw the tower behind them, lights flickering, alarms wailing, and at the top floor a faint glow. "Darius," she whispered. Inside that tower, Darius Johnson staggered into the server room. He plugged the flash drive into the master system, ignoring the pain in his arm. Code flooded the screen, names, numbers, transfers. And a single red button marked erase all links. He took a deep breath and pressed it. The building lights flickered again, once, twice, then went dark. Tiana burst through the glass doors just as the mainframe shutdown began. "No!" she screamed, running toward him. "What did you do?" Darius smiled weakly. "I ended it." "You fool!" she shouted, pointing her gun at him. "You think that will save you?" He shook his head. "Not me. Her." Tiana's finger tightened on the trigger, but before she could fire, the floor beneath them shook violently. Sparks burst from the servers. The backup generator overloaded, sending a blinding flash of light across the room. The explosion that followed rippled through the tower like thunder. From outside, Amara saw it, the top floor erupting into a burst of flame and glass. She gasped, hand flying to her mouth. "Darius," she whispered. Devon tightened his grip on the wheel. "He bought us time." Nia exhaled shakily. "And took everything with him." Amara stared at the fire reflecting in her eyes. For a moment she couldn't breathe. Her husband, her betrayer, had just sacrificed himself to destroy the very empire he built. And yet, she knew this wasn't over. Because Tiana Rivers had always been 3 steps ahead. Back downtown, emergency sirens wailed. Firefighters rushed toward the tower. But 2 blocks away in a black SUV, Tiana Rivers sat in the back seat, alive, furious, and untouched. A deep cut bled down her arm, but her expression was steady. "Was the data destroyed?" the driver asked. Tiana smirked. "Not all of it. Our backups are safe overseas." She looked out at the burning tower, the flames reflected in her cold eyes. "Let her think she's won," she said. "When she finally breathes again, we'll take everything she has left." Hours later, Amara sat in a motel room on the city's edge. Rain tapped against the window, and Nia's laptop hummed softly on the table. Devon emerged from the bathroom, drying his face. "You need rest," he said. Amara shook her head. "No. We need to find out who's still pulling the strings. If Tiana lived, she won't stop. Nia looked up from the laptop. You're right, she said. And there's something else. Before Darius shut down the mainframe, a backup copy of the files was sent to a cloud server. He must have triggered it intentionally. Amara leaned forward. Where? Nia turned the screen toward her. The map showed a location, Lagos, Nigeria. Looks like your husband wanted the truth to live, Nia said. Amara stared at the screen. Then that's where we go next. Devon frowned. Nigeria? You're walking into a lion's den. Amara's voice was calm but certain. Then it's time the lion meets the hunter. She stood, slipping on her jacket, determination burning through the grief in her eyes. Because now it wasn't just about revenge, it was about redemption. And she was ready for war. The next morning, the gray light of dawn filtered through thin motel curtains, painting the room in pale gold and regret. The storm had passed, leaving only the smell of wet asphalt and the quiet hum of morning traffic. Amara stood by the window, phone pressed to her ear, eyes locked on nothing. Yes, book 3 tickets. Lagos. Tonight. First available flight, she said firmly. On the bed behind her, Devon snored softly, head tilted back, gun still in his lap. Nia sat cross-legged with her laptop, eyes red from a night of coding. Are you sure this is smart? Nia asked, closing her computer. Tiana has reach. Lagos is her territory. You'll be walking into her kingdom. Amara turned, her voice steady but edged with steel. That's exactly why I'm going. The truth started there, and it's where it'll end. Nia sighed. Then we'll need contacts. People who can move quietly. I still know a few, Devon said, waking up and rubbing his eyes. My friend Yuzo works with the Lagos State CID. He's good. Corrupt politicians hate him, which means he's useful. Amara nodded. Call him. Tell him I'll need protection and access to whatever's left of Rivers Foundation's Nigerian branch. Devon raised a brow. You realize this is basically a declaration of war, right? Amara slipped her wedding ring from her finger and dropped it onto the nightstand with a metallic clink. Then let's make it a clean war. 2 nights later, the trio landed in Lagos. The humid air hit them like a warm, damp wall. Car horns blared outside Murtala Muhammad Airport, and the city pulsed with its usual restless energy. Hawkers shouting, buses swerving, generators humming like angry insects. Amara wore a plain Ankara scarf that hid most of her face. She had swapped her designer handbag for a small backpack. Nia carried the encrypted laptop. Devon handled logistics, scanning every corner like a hawk. A black Toyota Prado rolled up near the curb. The driver stepped out, tall, brown-skinned, late 30s with a calm yet fierce presence. His name tag read Yuzo Eek. Devon? He greeted with a firm handshake before glancing at Amara. So you're the woman causing earthquakes across 2 continents. Amara gave a faint smile. If that's what it takes to bury the truth, then yes. Yuzo chuckled. Well, Lagos loves drama. Come in before the real sharks smell you. They drove through the neon-lit streets of Victoria Island. As the city blurred by, Yuzo explained what he knew. Rivers Foundation's Lagos headquarters went silent last week. Staff laid off, offices sealed. But 2 nights ago, someone reopened the main vault under another name, Apex Humanitarian Trust. Guess who signed the documents? Tiana Rivers, Nia murmured. Yuzo nodded. Exactly. She's setting up again, bigger, bolder, and backed by people who can erase police records with a phone call. Amara leaned forward. We need proof that connects her to the laundering. Do you know where she's operating from? She's been seen at the Monarch Hotel Ikoyi, Yuzo replied. Top floor penthouse. Heavily guarded. Only high-profile guests allowed. Devon grinned grimly. Perfect. That's where we start. That evening, they checked into a nearby hotel under fake names. Nia set up surveillance equipment near the balcony. From across the lagoon, the Monarch stood like a glass temple, its lights reflecting on the dark water. Amara sat quietly, staring at the skyline. Her mind drifted to Darius, his last words, his sacrifice, and the life they'd built before everything burned. Nia joined her with a mug of tea. You okay? Amara smiled faintly. Do I look okay? No, Nia said softly. But you look unstoppable. Amara chuckled. That's close enough. She stood, pulling her scarf tighter. We go in tonight. Devon looked up sharply. What? I'm done hiding, she said. If I want to end this, I have to face her. Alone. No chance, Devon replied. She'll have guards. Snipers probably. You can't just walk into the lion's den. I won't walk, Amara said, eyes gleaming. I'll sneak. 2 hours later, under the cover of darkness, Amara crossed the narrow service bridge connecting the two hotel rooftops. The wind whipped her scarf as she crouched low, moving silently. Devon's voice buzzed in her earpiece. Security cam rotation every 15 seconds. You've got a 7-second blind spot on the next corner. Move now. She darted across the final stretch and slipped through an unlocked maintenance door. The penthouse hallway gleamed with white marble and golden lights. Every sound seemed to echo, the hum of air vents, the distant thud of bass from a rooftop party. Nia's voice came through next. Thermal scan shows 3 bodies inside the suite. One of them sitting, likely Tiana. Amara's heart pounded. Copy. She moved quietly down the corridor, heels of her sneakers barely making a sound. The door ahead was slightly ajar. Voices drifted through. She's in Lagos now, a man said, his accent thick. Are you sure she's alive? Tiana's voice answered, cool, precise, unmistakable. She's too stubborn to die. But it doesn't matter. Once the press release drops tomorrow, Amara Johnson will officially be declared the mastermind behind every missing fund. I've got her confession edited, her digital signature on the accounts, and witnesses who'll swear they saw her move the money. Amara froze. They were already framing her again. She peeked through the crack. Tiana sat on a white leather couch, sipping wine, scrolling through files on her laptop. 2 armed guards stood nearby. Should we leak the footage tonight? One guard asked. Tiana smiled thinly. No. Let her sleep thinking she's safe. Tomorrow the world wakes up to hate her. Rage burned through Amara's veins. She'd risked her life, lost her husband, her home, and Tiana was still one step ahead. She pressed her earpiece. Devon, I've got eyes on her. Get ready to record. Careful, Amara, Nia warned. Don't let her see you. But Amara was done being careful. She pushed the door open. Tiana's head snapped up. Well, she said, rising slowly, the ghost returns. Amara stepped inside, shutting the door behind her. You talk too much, Tiana. Tiana laughed softly, swirling her wine. And you don't talk enough. That's always been your problem. Silence makes it easy to bury you. Not anymore, Amara said. Every word you say from now on is being recorded. Tiana's smile faltered. Her gaze flicked toward the small camera pin on Amara's jacket. You think this changes anything? She hissed. Even if the world hears me, they'll still believe I'm the victim. They always believe the one who smiles better. Amara took a slow step closer. Maybe. But this time I'm not smiling. Tiana's mask slipped, for just a moment. The confident smirk faded into something sharper, colder. She gestured to her guards. Get her out of my sight. But before they could move, Devon burst through the door, gun raised. Nobody moves. Chaos erupted. One guard lunged, another drew his weapon. Devon fired first, hitting the chandelier, glass raining down. Nia's voice screamed through the earpiece. Get out. Security's on the way. Amara ducked behind the couch as Tiana fired a small pistol she'd hidden in her boot. The bullet grazed Amara's arm, but she didn't stop. She kicked the coffee table into Tiana, sending wine and glass flying. The recording device fell from her jacket, sliding across the floor. Tiana dove for it. You're not leaving with that, she shouted. Amara threw herself forward, grabbing Tiana's wrist. The two women struggled, crashing into the couch, the gun skittering across the floor. Why won't you just die, Amara? Tiana hissed. Because truth doesn't burn, Amara spat back, wrenching the recorder from her grip. Devon grabbed Amara's arm and pulled her toward the balcony. We have to go. Tiana stumbled to her feet, bleeding from a cut on her forehead, and screamed after them, You think this is over? You'll never clear your name. Amara turned back at the balcony door. Rain poured outside, thunder rolling over the lagoon. It's not my name I'm clearing, she said coldly. It's my soul. Then she leapt. Devon followed. They landed hard on the rooftop pool of the adjacent building, the water exploding in white foam. Behind them, alarms blared through the Monarch. By dawn, the recording of Tiana's confession, every damning word, was uploaded by Nia to 3 major news outlets. The story spread like wildfire across social media. Rivers Foundation fraud exposed, insider admits conspiracy. In the leaked footage, Tiana's words were clear, crisp, and undeniable. Public opinion shifted overnight. Amara Johnson, the woman once branded a traitor, became a symbol of courage and truth. But as she sat quietly in the back of Yuzo's car later that morning, her bandaged arm throbbing, she didn't feel victorious. Because she knew Tiana Rivers wasn't dead. And somewhere in the city the real puppet masters, the ones above Tiana, were already preparing their next move. Yuzo looked at her in the rearview mirror. "What's next, Madame Amara?" She stared out at the Lagos sunrise, eyes filled with resolve. "We finish what Darius started," she said softly. "We bring them all down." Lagos never slept. Even at midnight the city's veins pulsed with noise, horns blaring, generators humming, street vendors shouting. But in the narrow backstreets of Surulere, where Amara now hid, the noise seemed distant, muffled by the thick tension hanging in the air. She sat at a wooden table in a small, dimly lit room above a printing shop. The faint scent of fresh ink mixed with the smell of burning kerosene from the lantern by the wall. Nia was pacing the floor, phone pressed to her ear, while Devon cleaned his gun at the window, watching the alley below. "We've made Tiana public enemy number one," Nia said finally, ending her call. "Half the country wants her arrested, and the other half wants her gone before she talks." Amara looked up from the map she'd been studying. "And the people she works for?" Nia shook her head. "Too quiet. That's what scares me." Devon set the gun aside. "They won't come for us immediately. They'll wait. Let things cool down, then strike when no one's watching." Amara leaned back, exhaustion washing over her. "Then we can't wait for them. We find them first." "You sure you're ready for that?" Devon asked gently. "You've been running on fumes." She smiled faintly. "I've been running on purpose. That's stronger." Nia crossed her arms. "If we're going to find them, we need to know who's funding Tiana's network in Nigeria. Yuzo's contact at the CID says she didn't build that empire alone." "She didn't?" Amara said softly. "There's someone behind her, a face I've seen before but can't place. Darius mentioned rooms with no doors before he died. He meant secret financiers, politicians, offshore partners." Devon frowned. "And you think the money trail still exists?" Amara nodded. "It does. Darius backed everything up before he destroyed the servers. He sent one last message to my private inbox before he died." "You didn't mention that," Nia said sharply. Amara reached into her bag, pulling out an old phone. The cracked screen lit up with a single unread email. "If you're reading this, it's not over." She tapped it open. Inside was a string of coordinates, and a short note. "Find the ledger. Osapa compound. Room 9. Devon whistled low. "Osapa compound? That's not exactly a friendly neighborhood. It's guarded like a military base." "Which means it's exactly where they're hiding the proof," Amara replied. "If we get that ledger we can expose everyone, Tiana, the financiers, all of them." Nia exhaled. "Then we go tonight." Hours later, the trio crept through the shadows of Osapa, London, one of Lagos's most exclusive gated communities. The streets were lined with luxury SUVs, marble villas, and high walls topped with electric fencing. The air smelled faintly of rain and diesel from standby generators. They reached the perimeter of the compound Darius had marked. Devon crouched, examining the fence. Security cameras every 30 feet. 2 guards at the main gate. Another at the back. "We go silent or we don't go at all." Amara adjusted her gloves. "We go." Devon cut the power briefly, and they slipped through a small gap in the fence. The compound loomed before them, a modern mansion with mirrored windows and a massive bronze door. A faint hum of servers echoed inside, like the heartbeat of something mechanical. Nia's tablet beeped softly as she connected to the internal network. "I'm in. Cameras looping for 5 minutes. Let's move." They slipped through a side entrance and into a hallway lined with portraits of men in suits. Their faces were familiar, politicians, CEOs, and charity leaders Amara had seen on television for years. And then, at the end of the hall, a new portrait stopped her cold. It was Darius. Her heart clenched. "He was one of them," she whispered. "Not just one of them," Nia said quietly, examining the plaque beneath the portrait. "He founded this branch." Amara's breath caught. "No, he said he was trying to fix it." Devon put a hand on her shoulder. "Maybe he did. Maybe that's why they killed him." They pushed forward into room 9, a secure office with floor-to-ceiling shelves and a reinforced safe in the corner. Devon worked quickly, cracking the lock with a handheld device. The door hissed open, revealing a sleek black briefcase inside. Amara lifted it out carefully. "This must be it." Nia opened her laptop, connecting a cable to the case's digital lock. A progress bar appeared. "Decrypting." Suddenly a red light blinked on the desk phone. Then a voice filled the room. "I knew you couldn't resist." Amara froze. The voice was calm, smooth, unmistakably female. Tiana, she said. Touching, isn't it? Tiana's voice echoed through the intercom. You came all this way to steal from ghosts. You really think Darius sent you those coordinates by choice? Amara's chest tightened. What do you mean? He was already working for me, Tiana said. Every backup he made, every message he sent, it was all part of the plan. He wasn't saving you, Amara. He was delivering you. The words hit like a slap. Devon drew his gun. She's stalling. Am I? Tiana continued, voice dripping with satisfaction. Step outside and see what loyalty costs. Before anyone could move, headlights flooded the windows. Outside, black SUVs screeched to a stop. Men in tactical gear poured out, weapons raised. Ambush! Devon shouted. Nia slammed the laptop shut and yanked the drive free. We've got 80% of the data, enough to trace the accounts. Then move. Devon barked, firing a warning shot through the window. The room exploded into chaos, bullets ripping through glass, alarms blaring, dust choking the air. Amara clutched the briefcase and ran for the back exit. Devon covered her while Nia hacked the gate controls from her tablet. The gate creaked open just enough for them to slip through. They sprinted into the alley as gunfire echoed behind them. A van screeched to a halt at the end of the street, Yuzo behind the wheel. Get in, he yelled. They dove inside, and the van sped away just as a grenade exploded behind them, shattering the night with fire and debris. Tell me we got something, Yuzo said, eyes on the rearview mirror. Nia held up the small flash drive, trembling. We did. But not everything. Amara clutched the briefcase tight. We have enough to destroy her. Devon frowned. You don't sound convinced. Amara looked out the window, the city lights flickering across her face. Because I know Tiana. She doesn't bluff. If she wanted us dead, we'd already be gone. That means she still needs me alive. Yuzo's voice was grim. Then whatever's in that case, it's not just evidence. Amara's hand tightened around the handle. No, she said slowly. It's leverage. She opened the case. Inside was a single black ledger, bound in leather, thick with pages of handwritten transactions. But tucked between them was something else, a sealed envelope marked with a name she hadn't spoken in years. Amara Johnson. Private. Her blood ran cold. She opened it. Inside was a photo, her younger self, smiling beside a woman she hadn't seen in 2 decades. Her mother. And written across the back of the photo in Darius's handwriting. She was part of it too. The van jolted over a bump, but Amara didn't feel it. Her pulse roared in her ears. Nia leaned closer. Amara, what is it? Amara's voice trembled. My mother, she's alive. Devon stared. What? She died years ago, Amara whispered. In a car crash, or so I was told. She looked up, eyes burning with realization. Tiana wasn't after me for revenge. She was after my bloodline. Yuzo slowed the van. You mean? Yes, Amara said, voice steady now, fierce again. This isn't about corruption anymore. It's about family. She looked down at the photo, fingers trembling. And I'm going to find her. The sound of the van's engine faded beneath the weight of silence. For a long moment, no one spoke. The photo trembled in Amara's hands as if her mother's smile might vanish if she blinked. She was part of it too, the words burned in her chest like a wound. Nia finally broke the quiet. Amara, we need to talk about this before we do anything reckless. Amara looked up sharply. Reckless? My whole life has been built on lies. If my mother's alive, and part of this, then everything I thought I knew was fake. Devon, sitting beside her, leaned forward. Then let's think. Darius must have known something. Maybe she was connected to the Rivers Foundation before Tiana took over. Amara shook her head slowly. My mother, Ngozi, was a teacher. She lived quietly in Enugu. She wasn't rich, she wasn't political. When she died, I was 15. Yuzo kept his eyes on the road. And who handled her funeral? Amara frowned. My father's old friend, Chief Adewale. He arranged everything after the accident. Devon's brow furrowed. Accident? Amara's voice cracked. A car crash. They said her brakes failed on her way to school. We buried a closed coffin. Nia glanced at the ledger on Amara's lap. Then maybe that coffin wasn't as closed as you thought. The van hit a bump, jarring them all. Yuzo spoke up again, tone careful. I have contacts in Enugu State CID. We can confirm if her death certificate was ever officially filed. But if this is tied to the people funding Tiana, then my mother's disappearance wasn't an accident, Amara finished. Her jaw tightened. Turn the van around, Yuzo. We're going to Enugu. By dawn they were out of Lagos, driving east through the long winding roads of southern Nigeria. The air was thick with mist and roadside markets slowly came to life. Women sweeping, men roasting corn, children chasing each other through puddles. Amara stared out the window, lost in memories. Her mother's laughter echoed faintly in her mind. The way she hummed while cooking, the scent of palm oil and thyme, the soft hands that always smelled like chalk from the classroom. She used to tell me, Amara whispered almost to herself, that truth is a wild animal. You can't cage it without losing something. Devon looked at her. And maybe she was right. They arrived in Enugu by mid-morning. Uzo parked near the old town's records office. The building's paint was peeling, but inside, stacks of files reached the ceiling like old ghosts waiting to be remembered. A clerk with tired eyes looked up as they entered. Can I help you? Uzo flashed his badge. We're looking for death records. Amara Johnson. Died 18 years ago. The clerk frowned, flipping through a large register. Ngozi Johnson, he trailed off. There's no such name in our archives. Amara blinked. That can't be right. We buried her here. The man shrugged. Then it wasn't done officially. No file, no report, no burial permit. Nia leaned forward. Are you saying there's no record at all of her death? None, the clerk replied. As far as the government is concerned, she never died. Amara's knees weakened. Devon caught her before she fell. She's alive, she whispered. All this time. Uzo's phone buzzed. He stepped aside to answer, listening intently before returning, face grim. My contact confirmed something strange. A woman named Ngozi Kayamaka is listed as a board member of a company recently revived under Tiana's network. Amara's heart stopped. Which company? The Rivers Foundation. Nia swore under her breath. That's impossible. That foundation was burned to the ground. Uzo shook his head. Not anymore. It's been re-registered as Rivers Alliance Trust. New board. New funding. Same bank accounts. Amara gripped the table. Where's their headquarters? Uzo hesitated. In Abuja. Then that's where we're going, she said. Devon frowned. Amara, we've been running nonstop. We can't just walk into the capital. Tiana's people will have half the city paid off. I don't care, Amara said, eyes blazing. If my mother is alive, I'm getting answers. By nightfall they reached Abuja. The city shimmered under soft streetlights, clean and orderly compared to Lagos's chaos. But beneath the calm, danger simmered. They booked a small guest house near Wuz, a place run by an old friend of Uzo's. As they settled in, Nia spread maps and files across the bed. Here, she said, pointing to a circle on the paper. Rivers Alliance Trust, Corporate Office, Maitama District. High security. We'll need inside access. Amara studied the blueprint. My mother is listed as a board member. That means her ID or fingerprints are in their system. Devon caught on. You're thinking of using her identity to get in? Amara nodded. If they think she's dead, her access might be dormant, but not deleted. Nia smiled faintly. Risky. I like it. Uzo crossed his arms. And what if she's actually inside that building? What if she's part of this willingly? Amara's hands trembled slightly, but her voice was steady. Then I'll look her in the eyes and find out. The next day, dressed as corporate consultants, they approached the sleek Rivers Alliance building. The walls gleamed white and glassy under the Abuja sun. Guards checked IDs at the gate while drones buzzed lazily overhead. Devon adjusted his earpiece. Remember, we're auditors. We smile, we walk in, and we don't break character. Amara nodded, clutching a fake badge labeled Ngozi Kayamaka, advisor. They entered the lobby. The receptionist smiled politely, scanning their passes. Welcome back, Mrs. Ngozi, she said. Amara froze. Excuse me? The woman nodded, lowering her voice. It's been a long time since we saw you. Madam Tiana said you'd return eventually. The world tilted. Nia subtly pressed her hand against Amara's arm. Keep walking, she whispered. They stepped into the elevator, the mirrored walls reflecting Amara's pale face. She knew I'd come, Amara murmured. Devon frowned. Tiana planned this from the start. When the elevator doors opened on the 10th floor, they entered a corridor lined with glass offices. In the center was a conference room with its blinds drawn. Voices drifted through the glass, familiar, low, commanding. Amara's hand tightened on the handle. Are you ready? Nia asked. Amara nodded once and pushed the door open. Inside sat Tiana Rivers, and beside her, older but unmistakable, was Amara Johnson, Amara's mother, alive. Her hair was streaked with gray, her eyes sharp as glass, her posture regal. She turned slowly, her gaze meeting Amara's with unsettling calm. "Hello, my daughter," she said softly. "You've grown beautifully." Amara's voice caught in her throat. "Mama?" Tiana smirked. "Family reunions are so emotional, aren't they?" Amara took a shaky step forward. "You're alive. You worked with her? Why?" Ngozi smiled faintly. "Because, Amara, everything you've uncovered, everything you think you're fighting against, was built by me." The room went still. Devon's hand twitched toward his gun. Nia's eyes widened in disbelief. Amara stared, heart breaking and hardening all at once. "You built the Rivers Foundation?" Her mother nodded slowly. "From the ground up. Long before Darius, before Tiana. It was never meant for evil. But power changes hands easily." Tiana's smirk returned. "And now the heir returns to claim her throne." Amara's eyes filled with fury. "I didn't come here for power. I came for the truth." Ngozi leaned forward, her tone almost gentle. "Then you'll have to decide, my child. Will you destroy the empire I created, or lead it?" The silence was deafening. Identical signatures. This isn't just charity fraud, Amara. This is the backbone of corruption itself. Devon met her gaze. "Then we take it to the world." Amara nodded through the tears. "To every journalist, every lawyer, every platform that still believes in truth." She looked out at the burning skyline. "My mother built an empire on secrets. I'll bury it with truth." 2 weeks later the world had changed. The Rivers Alliance leak became the biggest expose in African political history. News outlets across continents ran the story non-stop. Arrests rippled through the elite like wildfire. Frozen accounts. Resigned ministers. Vanished CEOs. Tiana Rivers was nowhere to be found. And Amara Johnson, once accused, hunted, betrayed, was now a symbol. Her courage made headlines. Her name became a rallying cry for whistleblowers and reformists. But even as the applause grew, she stayed quiet. Because she knew the victory was incomplete. Her mother's body was never recovered from the wreckage. No DNA, no remains, nothing but a single pendant found near the rubble, a small gold cross engraved with the initials NCJ. Amara wore it now as she stood on the edge of the Lagos shoreline, the wind tugging gently at her scarf. Devon and Nia stood beside her, silent. "She's gone," Devon said softly. "But she saved you." Amara smiled faintly. "No. She gave me a choice. And I finally made it." Nia handed her a tablet showing the latest headline. "Whistleblower CEO launches new charity for orphans of corruption scandal." Amara nodded. "This time the money will go where it's meant to." The ocean breeze grew stronger, and she let the pendant slip from her fingers into the waves. "Rest now, Mama," she whispered. "Your story is over. Mine is just beginning." That night, as she drove away, a news broadcast played faintly on the radio. "Breaking news," the anchor said. "A woman believed to be connected to the Rivers Alliance has resurfaced in Morocco under a new identity. Authorities suspect she may be linked to the missing billions still unaccounted for." Amara's hands tightened on the steering wheel. The corners of her lips curved, not in fear but in quiet understanding. Because deep down she already knew. Her mother wasn't gone. And the game wasn't over.